Hey guys, let's take a look at a cool toy from 1967 by Mattel. It's called Strange Change, The Lost World. This is kind of a combination of a monster playset and a dinosaur playset and a toy to make things, kind of like a thing maker set, like the Creepy Crawlers or Fright Factory or Creeple People. It's kind of a combination of all that stuff. So I think probably the best piece of all of it is the box. The graphics on this box are spectacular. And I'm going to show you the different sides of the box here. Beautiful. When a monster kid saw that, he had to have it. More gorgeous graphics. There's the back. It had the creatures, they called them time capsules. They're little flat cubes. And when you could crush them into that while the plastic was hot, and then you heat them up in this time machine, which is just a heating unit, and it makes them expand again into their normal shape. So, you could pretend you were bringing something through time or whatever as a kid. I know which one the membrane man is. I don't remember the glurd. There were 16 of them in the original set, and a couple of little carded expansion sets you could get with 4 more in each. So there were 24 creatures in all. Man, that graphic is just cool. And I've got all of those, so I'm going to be going over each one with you and show you, the sculpt and explain what I know about it and what I remember about playing with this stuff when I was a kid. And there's the other end of it. I'm taking a little time on this box because it's so spectacular. And really, it's the centerpiece of this thing is a collectible. And we're going to take a look at the instruction sheet here in some detail. I've even got the original paperwork that came inside there. I'll be showing that to you, and the tongs. And of course, the problematic green mountain. It's really cool, but it had a tendency to split because when you put all this in the box, the Mattel Strange Change machine set on top of the lower part of that mountain there, and the weight of it tended to make it split, especially in shipping. And over the years, plastic gets old and splits a little easier. And evidently it came with 2 that were already formed, a membrane man and a pteranodon. I did not remember that. I crushed them and heated them up several times. And I still have my original ones. I didn't pull those out. I bought this set off of eBay because it's in better condition than mine and it has the original box. Let me get this up here so you can actually read this. Of course, you can just pause the video if you want to read any of this. If you're a nut about this stuff like I am. And you know, there's the instructions, trying to keep kids from burning themselves. Of course, we always burned our fingers on this stuff. And you know, we lived through it. And it taught us to be careful when we encountered something hot. And that's the way life works. The way things are now, society is so overprotective of children, it doesn't allow them to grow up and learn. You know, you feel a little pain and it sinks into your brain and you know what not to do next time. It's part of growing up. But I won't get onto that. Not here to argue, just have fun. And here's more. And they recommend using a fine pointed felt tip pen to outline eyes, ears, etc. to highlight the creatures. You know, that would just serve to make them deteriorate that much quicker, I would think. But anyway, a lot of times when you see this stuff for sale now, which is almost exclusively on eBay or maybe at a toy show, you just see it in pieces and parts, and sometimes you see the creatures. And I've seen some of the more popular individual creatures sell for, you know, 10, 15 bucks a piece. But most of the time you see them in groups or lots, and they end up costing, you know, $3 or $4 a piece maybe. What you got to be careful about, these creatures had a tendency to get dried out by that heating unit. When kids would heat them up too many times and then crush them back down and then reheat them over and over, they'd get dried out, and the plastic would, you know, wouldn't look as good, and sometimes they even burned them, and then they looked terrible. And the other side of the instruction sheet is a landscape map of the Lost World, like a playmat. I'll be setting all this up and going over it with you. Okay, we're back. I have the components out on the table here. I'm going to show all of them to you. I have the original 16 creatures divided up into groups here by color. And there are two colors that are quite similar, this red and this reddish purple. For those, and then the yellow ones, those humanoids, they were probably the lamest of the bunch because they never would stand upright. But you know, they're cool just for being in the set, I guess. And here's the green one with some of the dinosaurs, and actually there were, well, this is probably a Dimetrodon. So, you know, probably 3 dinosaurs and that octopus in there. And we'll go over those in a minute, but let's look at the mountain. Let's talk about this mountain here. Now this is vacu-form. And you know, it's probably more substantial than some vacu-form. It seems like it's a little bit thicker, but when you had that heavy metal unit sitting in here inside the box, this thing took a beating, and it also took a beating in play. These splits are common with this thing. You almost never see one of these without splits, and usually it has like holes in it. But it was really fun to play on. And when you bought this new, I remember it had a clear plastic piece that fit over this, kind of fit down into these craters as part of I guess the packing for the shipping to keep it from moving around too much. But anyway, I used to put water in this pool, you know, and it was pretty fun to play with. I even cut out, in my Green Mountain I had as a kid, which I still have, I cut out a section right here and made a cave. which worked out pretty good for play. It sucks for display, but you know, for playing with it, it was cool. There's the Green Mountain. Problematic as it is condition-wise, it's still, you know, I have fond memories of playing with that thing. And these are the tongs. They provided you with these plastic tongs. A kid could use these tongs to take the hot monster out of the time machine there and not burn his fingers. Of course, a lot of us just reached in there and used the fingers and ended up with, you know, burned fingers, which, hey, we lived, you know, it's no big deal. And here is the Strange Change machine itself. In later releases of this, now this is from 1967. They released this a little bit later and probably the next year, and they call this a time machine. So sometimes you see a sticker that says time machine on these things that are for sale instead of Strange Change machine. And just to give you an idea there, it's got the Mattel logo plastered everywhere, of course. They were good at branding. And you plug it in and it heats up, and that's about all there is to it. Now this one still heats, but I'm not going to be heating mine up and crushing them anymore. For one thing, I'm too old to play with it, and I just have this stuff because I enjoy collecting it and displaying it. So now here's this clear plastic area here where you heat the thing up. It's got the original paperwork there. Some neat graphics on that. Going to give you a look there, and then you can look down in there, and I've still got the original insert there. That you know, basically it just caution, this is an electrical unit, blah blah blah. But I got it. So there we go with that. That's a look at that. That thing is actually pretty heavy because it's, you know, substantial metal. So I think a lot of them probably burned out over the years, but they're still around, you know. I mean, you could take a sledgehammer to that thing and bust the plastic, but the metal would still be there. And let's take a look at the basic 16 creatures that you got. Here's a tarantula, giant spider, and a giant scorpion. And these are very bendable because, you know, they're flexible. And these particular ones were not overheated or heated too many times. They retain, you know, the suppleness of the plastic and the sheen and the good displayability. I always like this little guy. He kind of looked like a tree monster to me. Let me get my black construction paper here and focus in on him a little bit. When I was a little kid, my dad used to he used to write me letters when he was working in other towns occasionally, and he was in radio, and he drew these tree monsters for me, and this little guy reminds me a lot of the stuff he drew. And here is one of the favorites of, I think this one is on the commercial. It's called Membrane Man. And you can find the commercial for this on YouTube. I don't have it edited in here because I'm still low tech on this. I just started doing videos a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to get my memories out and some information and show you guys some of the cool things you could have gotten years ago. Anyway, there's Membrane Man. Here's this guy. He looks kind of like a ghost, kind of. And nothing like a fish skeleton. I guess it's supposed to be like a fossil or whatever. And of course you got your basic pteranodon there. And this sizable rattlesnake. It's got the rattles in the tail there. The sculpts on these, you know, they're not detailed by any means. It's not like a Marx toy or even an NPC, but it's they serve the purpose, you know. They look cool and were fun to play with, and that's all you need as a kid. The pretty box enticed you to bug your parents to get it for you, and then you got the toys, and you threw the pretty box away, and you played with the toys, and you enjoyed it. So, and I got one of these for Christmas in 1967. That was the year I got my King Kong Jungle set by MPC, and I did a video on that if you guys want to check that out. That's not my original set, but it's the one I picked up later of that set. And also got a bunch of Captain Action stuff. I mean, a lot of Captain Action stuff that year. I had a very good Christmas that year. My mom got me just about all the Captain Action stuff in the Sears catalog. And they had here's the octopus. They had the Silver Streak car and the cardboard garage for Captain Action. And if I still had that, that'd be worth a fortune now. But sadly, that was hard plastic, and the garage, you know, being cardboard, that stuff didn't fare too well in my toy boxes. And that's all 16 of those. But anyway, I had Action Boy and Dr. Evil and the Captain America suit and the Batman suit with that came with the that vinyl carrying case that doubled as a headquarters, and I had the weapons accessory set. I was well stocked on Captain Action, and I had a lot of fun with that stuff back in the day. And of course, Dr. Evil, if I didn't mention him. And now this is one of the accessory packs, and I'm gonna take this off and give you a good look at this. It does not have the original cubes in it, but you can look at this and tell the shape and size of those cubes by that plastic blister or bubble on the outside there. This one is called Astropods, and it even has stuff on the back here. Mysterious Time Capsule. Expanded in the Time Machine Expansion Chamber. It's a creature from the Lost World. And it shows a picture of the unit there. And return it to the expansion chamber. Squeeze it in the compression chamber. The creature has returned to capsule form. Before I go any further, I need to show you the compression chamber. I didn't really go over that very well when I was showing the unit. But here we go. Now, this is a compression chamber. You had to crank it all the way back. And after you heat the monster up, you stuff it down in there and get all the legs and arms stuffed down in there real good. And then you put this over the top so it wouldn't squeeze out the top. Then you'd crush it. And when you couldn't crush it any farther, you waited, you know, a minute or two, and then you took it out and you let it cool. And by the way, this crushing mechanism here has the Mattel logo on it, as you can see there. You know, they were good at Mattel about their branding. They had that all over everything. So that's the whole idea about, you know, when you crush them and turn them back into the little capsules. And they were easily stored that way. And the fun of it is you could heat them back up again later and it turned back into the monster. But anyway, let's get back to this. Here's the Crabosaurus, and even the graphics on this are great, man. This little accessory pack. Yeah, I got some glare there. There's the Crabosaurus. Here is the figure of the Crabosaurus. And there's the Flyodon. They weren't too creative with some of the names, but some of them, they were very creative, as you're going to see. And here's the Flyodon. Just a giant fly. A saurus and a don, you know, that's common dinosaur designations. Here's the big one for the illustration, the Raspigator. Here then is the Raspigator. So that's a cool monster. These weird monsters like this were my favorite. They didn't look like anything I'd ever seen, you know. They were unique to this set and the accessory packs. And here is the Slunkapod. And there's the illustration for Slunkapod. And there's the genuine article. Slunkapod. All right. Let me put these guys back and I will get the other accessory pack and show you. The other one has even cooler monsters in it. Now, a couple of them aren't that spectacular, but let me, first of all, I'll just give you an overview of the graphics and what's actually on the card. Only to be used with Mattel's Strange Change toy, 1967. It gives the address there. They always did that back then. And this is the Creaturelings. Shrouded in mystery, never really alive or dead, controlled by a power so great they exist forever with the Strange Change machine. You know, they really captured a kid's imagination with some of this stuff. And a grown-up kid. And here then is, get that to focus. Anyway, that's a Beetleodon. The camera is, there we go, Beetleodon. Beetleontodon, excuse me. And there's the Antosaurus. And this may be the coolest one of the bunch, the Snaggle-Fanged Oculus. He was one of my favorites. That thing looked like nothing else. I mean, it reminded me of a Hanna-Barbera monster, kind of like something off of Johnny Quest, you know. Really cool. And here is another great one, the Hooded Skull-Chironomus. Another big Cyclops, weird-looking creature. And let me show you these things. Here is the Beetleontodon. And the rather bland Antosaurus, unless you're a big Them fan, which I actually am. And we've got the Snaggle-Fanged Oculus, a fave. Look at that little guy. Can you imagine something like that skittering across the floor if it was as big as you are? Pretty cool. And an equally spectacular creature, the Hooded Skull-Chironomus. Nice texture. Great feet. They're kind of like horns. And claws, and then you got the big eye there on a stalk. Really cool critter. Can't say enough about their imagination with some of this. And basically, I think that about covers it. You've got Mattel's Strange Change, the Lost World toy from 1967 there. Get kind of an overview of it there. And, you know, like I was saying before, I'll mention quickly for the aftermarket. Occasionally you see these at toy shows. It's hard to find a nice box. And that's the best part of the thing, really, the graphics on that box for display. Usually, if you can find them with a box, the boxes are pretty messed up, you know. Oftentimes, they're falling apart. They've got holes in them, written on, water damage, you name it. You know, it's made of cardboard, so there you go. And the mountains, the green mountains did not survive well over the years at all because they're vacu-form, you know. They're a little thicker than some vacu-form pieces in some playsets, like that octopus in the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea playset by Remco from 1965. That's extremely thin. This thing is thicker than that, or it wouldn't have held up at all. But still, the years are not kind to old vacu-form pieces that have been used for just about anything. And occasionally you see the mountains, usually with bits and pieces of the set, you know, on eBay, or you might see it at a toy show or something. And the machine itself, you see those on eBay, and most of the time they don't heat up anymore. But people want them just for display and to remember, you know. And the creatures, you see bits and pieces and parts of the set of creatures. Very seldom do you ever see all 16 of the original ones, and you hardly ever see the ones from the accessory packs, which that makes the 24 in all. It's hard to find a complete set of all 24 of these things. And you have condition issues with them where they're either dried out or burned. And, you know, it's just an uphill battle to try to put a set of this together. And you're liable to pay, you know, any kind of price for bits and pieces and lots of this stuff. But anyway, you can use this video to complete your own set if that's what you wish to do, because I've examined a complete set here for you. So now, if you can find one that is complete and the box is fairly decent and displayable, you're probably looking at between $200 and $300. I've never heard of a sealed one of these. If there was a warehouse find with a sealed example of this, who knows what those would sell for to collectors now. I mean, it might be $700 or $800. It might be $1,000. I don't know. I've never heard of a sealed example of this surviving. But, you know, that just gives you some kind of an idea of what you might have to pay to put one of these together. But hey, if you had them as a kid or you just like the look of them and you're a monster collector, it's worth it, in my opinion, to go for one. It might take a while to get the whole set, but it's cool. So that does it for Mattel's Strange Change: The Lost World from 1967. And I'll see you next video with more baby boomer, probably monster toy goodness.